Hi everyone, I'm Phillip J. Watt and this is a lounge room discussion with Max Egan. How you doing, Max?
Good, brother. Good.
How's it been back in Australia?
Good. Different to the jungles of Peru.
Mm.
But it's good to be back here. It's nice to have the energy of the place. It's a nice area to be where I live. So yeah, it's good to be back.
You can hear the jungle sounds outside.
Yeah, not as much as you can in Peru.
Yeah.
You know, different creatures, of course. But it's a beautiful space where I am. So it is good to be back. It's good to sort of come out of the jungle now and then and ground yourself, because you kind of get into a bit of a bubble living in the jungle and get into that jungle life, and you need to come back into society now and then just to see how the other half lives and, you know, connect yourself with what you're trying to do, really, because, you know, you get in the jungle there and you're in that bubble and you think the world's changing outside, so you've got to come out and check now and then, you know. And it's good to get back just to home space as well, you know.
You've struck a nice balance here. You've still got the jungle around you, but not far from, you know, the social infrastructure and mindset.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, I've got everything I need here. It's a really good place to be. And I've been around the world a lot of times and been to a lot of places, and this is one of the best places in the world to be. So, and that's a good point. That's always a selling point.
Well, there's a lot of things going on in the world, both what one might consider positive and negative. Lots of conscious expansion in certain people and in certain, I guess, networks. And the opposite is also true, lots of deception and going further into states of delusion. But we can help balance out that magic and madness. You know, some of us only focus on the magic, some of us only focus on the madness. It's important that some of us do the amalgamation of those two fields of philosophy and awakening as well. So tell us what's on your mind right now about all of what I just spoke about then.
Well, obviously, the US election, I think, is on everyone's mind. You know, what this is going to mean for the world. I mean, it's I can't help smiling just thinking about the fact that Donald Trump is the president of the United States. It's like we've entered an alternate reality, you know. And I think it's a good thing. I mean, not that I'm at all in any way a Trump supporter, but just the election of Donald Trump shows that at least general society, or at least those who voted in the American society, are awake enough to realise that whatever it is they want, it's not what they've had. You know, they want change, and anything is better than the current status quo, even Donald Trump.
Which Clinton and Herkabau represents?
No, they all represent the same thing. I mean, a vote for Hillary Clinton is a vote for no change. It's a vote for more war. It's a vote for continued loss of rights. It's a vote for loss of gun rights in the United States. It's a vote for more terrorism, more death, more destruction, more flexing of muscles against Russia and Iran. I mean, it's a joke. It's a complete joke. It's just more of the same. Hillary Clinton's funded by Saudi Arabia, one of the most abominable regimes on the planet. She's funneling money into Syria through Saudi Arabia and basically funding terrorism and funding ISIS terrorists. She's responsible for the destruction of 3 countries at least, you know, Libya, Syria, Iraq. She's approved all of the drone bombing. She approved the starving of 500 million children in Iraq. I mean, all of this sort of stuff. This is disgraceful that this woman would even be considered to be running for president. And, you know, on the other side, you've got Donald Trump, who's a complete wild card. And if it wasn't Donald Trump, it had to be someone like him. It had to be someone completely out of left field who is just going to be something completely different to what we've had.
And as narcissistic as he is, he might actually be able to create some change.
You never know. I mean, there's all sorts of dangers. He's a businessman. He's a player. He seems to be very willing to capitulate to what Israel wants him to do. You don't know. Maybe a lot of that was rhetoric. Maybe he realised, maybe he was smart enough or prudent enough to realise that he had to do that in order to get the vote, in order to get the office. And maybe he will look at things a little bit more sensibly now he's in office. But, you know, the clinchers will be to see if he really does launch an investigation into 9/11 and if he continues to fund Israel and support the ethnic cleansing of Palestine. Well, those two things are really important, and they will show whether he's worth anything at all.
Absolutely.
You know, and that will be revealed very, very quickly. So even those who are looking at him as some kind of a leader, the leader of the movement or whatever, they might be in for a rude shock, but it may, even if that happens, it may provide them with the motivation to realise they have to lead themselves. that there are no leaders. We don't need government at all, you know. But just the fact that they voted for someone so out of left field. I mean, Donald Trump, out of all people. I mean, that hairdo in the White House. I mean, this is amazing. It's like
entertainment.
It's definitely entertaining. That's what I said on my last show. Like, grab the popcorn, folks, because we're in for a real sideshow with this one. This is anybody's guess. I mean, even if he's a player, I don't think he's going to completely play by their rules. So it's a complete wild card. And all these people out there saying, oh, he's this, he's that. They don't know. We don't know what this guy's going to do. He could do anything. He's capable of anything. And, I mean, admittedly, the President of the United States doesn't hold as much power as people think it holds. Even with Barack Obama's closing speech, he's saying how much trouble he had to go through to get stuff through. And that's the way it is with every president. I mean, they don't hold the reins of power. And, you know, so if Trump thinks it is the top job and he can just go there and make all these sweeping changes, he's in for a rude shock. But I don't even think he knows how to be president. He doesn't even know what he's supposed to do.
He's probably the best person for the job.
Could be. Could be. You just don't know. You don't know where this is going to go. This is so out of left field that for the first time in a long time, I can't predict the future. So, but I think it's all going to be revealed very, very quickly. Let's see who he gets on his cabinet. It's not looking good to start with. In the first few days, it's really not looking good. But let's just see. Let's just see what happens in the next couple of months. And let's see what happens when he takes a big chair. You know, it's a big effort to undermine him before he even gets to office, which could be because he's such a threat, or it could be to simply portray him as being such a threat, to fool the masses into thinking that he, you know, the rebelling masses into thinking that he is the leader that they've waited for.
Give the Truth Network a bone.
Feed them a bone and just see. So all the world is a stage, and it's going to be really interesting to see how this unfolds, but it's going to unfold very quickly. Well, we're at a turning point right now.
You mentioned a lot of people who look to him as the leader, and most of them wouldn't know anything as in terms of how deep and dark the corruption system goes, but they're aware that there is some sort of corruption. But then there are people within the system themselves, the patriots, within, you know, the real constitutionalists, who really believe in America and what the legacy of the American Declaration actually represents. And so I imagine in the military and police and all those sorts of the bureaucracies and the rest of it, there are people who are sick of this globalist special interest system, as Trump puts it. So there is an allegation or a belief that Trump is working with those types of freedom fighters, so to speak. So let's hope so. You know, let's hope so. But at the end of the day, we really do have an opportunity, because I don't think too many people look to him as a leader who are sort of, you know, aware of these sorts of things. But he has claimed by default to be the leader, because he has said that our movement against the corrupt political establishment, and they're big statements, to say that we have a corrupt political establishment and there's a movement against it, and I'm a part of it, is huge words in my view. And we should be able to hold him accountable to that. If he wants to say he's a part of our team, then he needs to be held accountable for what he said regarding that.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. And it's going to unfold very quickly. Let's see what he does. Let's see whether he completely capitulates to Israel the way he appears to be doing. He may be nice to them on one hand, but withdraw funding from them on the other. So we've just got to wait and see how it plays out. He's got to be very careful at this particular time, especially through this transitional period. He's got to be extremely careful how he plays things. Mm-hmm. And
he hasn't harped on about putting Clinton in jail either. So.
No, there's a lot of things he hasn't done, and there's a lot of things that he could do, but he's got to be very, very careful how he plays his hand. What's going to tell is what he actually does when he takes office.
Well, his life is at risk, really. If he's against this system, his life is at risk, so he's got to be smart with it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, you know, you've got to really look at it each way and look at how you would play it. You know, how I would play it. I mean, if I was going to sneak in there and undermine the system, I would probably appear to capitulate to the needs of Israel in order to get the votes to get into the office, in order to actually,
makes sense,
now that I'm in there, maybe I've looked at it a little bit deeper, maybe I'm going to have to change those election promises the way they always do. It's just which promises are you going to change? You know, are you going to change the promise that you're going to investigate 9/11, or are you going to change the promise that you're going to keep funding Israel and you're going to approve these settlements and all that sort of stuff? So, and when you look at the Jewish influence over the US political system, it isn't any wonder that he would make such rhetoric on the way to office. It's going to tell what he does when he gets to office. That's how it's going to tell. I mean, it's it's not looking good. There's not a lot of good signs. I don't have a lot of faith. I think his presidency will be a disaster, personally, because I don't think he knows how to be the president. But whatever he is, I mean, like I said in the last show, you can get any garden variety pickpocket from the Bronx and they're going to make a better president than Hillary Clinton. I mean, anybody's better than Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton is a career criminal. And just the fact that enough people could see that and they would vote for something as bizarre and a wild card as Donald Trump shows just how desperate the American people are for change. And that's a good thing.
Yeah, it gives me hope.
Well, I mean, they don't need leaders anyway. You don't need political figures. You don't need all these order followers to keep doing what they're doing. That's the problem, is the order followers, you know. And that we've got to do something about that. We need something that's going to re-educate the people. And maybe the farce that we're going to see unfold with the Trump presidency is what will re-educate the people. Who knows? Maybe it'll go that way.
Well,
but ultimately,
media are doing a great job of it as well.
Well, oh yeah, absolutely. Well, at the moment, it's, you know, people are still looking for the answer to lie in what, you know, in Trump or Hillary or whatever, or having a leader of the movement or whatever. They don't realise that the answer lies in themselves. It's in changing their personal perspective and changing how they apply themselves, you know, to the world around them. That's where it really comes from. You know, the leader, it's got to be from the people. It's going to be what the people do with this opportunity that Trump's election has provided, because it's provided us an opportunity to regroup. I mean, if Hillary Clinton had been elected, it would have changed the world as we know it, because it would have ushered it right into World War III. Straight away, we would have been in conflict with Russia and Iran and China and all these countries. It just would not have been good, and it would have been more of the same. She would have been gathering up your children and sending them off to kill other people's children. And it just would have been more of the same. At least with Trump, we don't know what we're going to get. And it may turn out to be such a farce and such a debacle that people have to stand up for themselves and take a little bit of self-responsibility. You know, to me, I think it's a great thing, because it is anything but the norm. And, you know, it could go very badly, but even if Trump appears and comes out as a complete traitor and starts to capitulate to all these people and ends up being the president of the New World Order, like all these people are scared he may be, maybe that will give the people the motivation they need to realise that they have to stand up for themselves and that they don't need leaders.
Well, there is momentum towards individual sovereignty, self-responsibility and self-awareness. There is an expansion happening in a positive sense. And it's even based on energetic change and consciousness change as well, collective conscious change. So there's always the faith we can invest in that, because we are seeing positive things, but we're also seeing the negative, aren't we? So it depends on how we focus as well.
It depends on what we do with the information that we're getting, you know. But ultimately, it's got to come to the individual. You know, if people were to suddenly start doing the right thing in all that they do, you know, suddenly start obeying their moral compass. Natural law, moral compass.
Yeah.
We change the world overnight, you know, and that's the problem with order followers, like I was saying before. You know, the way, you know, you can a police officer will walk up to you and tell you must walk between the lines, and you say, well, no, I'm going to stand over here, and he will aggravate you to the point that he will arrest you, and if you continue to resist, he will kill you. He'll get to the point where he won't back down, to the point that if you continue to stand up for your rights, he will kill you. You know, and he will believe that he's doing the right thing simply because you wouldn't walk between the lines that he told you to walk between. And he'll kill you, and he'll be emotionally stressed that he had to kill this person. He'll go through all this counselling and stuff. Oh my God, why did he push me so far? Why did you push him so far? Why were you following someone's orders that made you believe that you had to push someone to the point that you would incarcerate them, put them in a cage, or kill them if they didn't do what you say? Who do you think you are, that you would even do that? Why can't you do what is right? Why can't you question the person who gave you the order to tell this person to walk between those lines? What right does he have to control that other person's life? What, because he's government? How does this work? How does this mentality get into people's minds? That they're so willing to follow orders that they will push people to the point of incarceration or death if they don't do what they're told. You know, and they'll go to other countries and they'll just bomb people and bomb countries and kill children and bomb whole cities and villages indiscriminately because they were told to do so. I had no choice. I was told to drop bombs on all those civilians, and I had no choice. Yes, you did. You all have a choice. And it's when we can break that cycle that we're going to see some change. But until we can break that cycle, until people can start applying their moral compass to everything they say and do, we're never going to get anywhere. Trump isn't going to save anything, but he may provide people with the opportunity to realise that they have to start addressing things for themselves. This is a complete farce now. This is like a sideshow. This is like a circus. It's like we've got Bozo the Clown running the most powerful nation on earth. It's unbelievable, you know. I mean, sure, he might be an okay businessman, but who needs a businessman running the world?
America.
I mean, America.
Capitalist.
You know, but really, I mean, America deserves Donald Trump. They brought it on themselves. But they're protesting all around the world, in Australia, everywhere. I mean, you can't see how contrived this is and how funded this is. They're protesting him because of some of the things he said, because they think he's sexist and they think he's racist.
Which is all exaggerated by the mainstream media.
Of course it is. And Hillary Clinton's gone and bombed whole countries and killed 500,000 children with sanctions and is funding money to terrorists. And I think she's a better choice than a guy who said a few sexist statements. I guarantee anybody, male or female, has said a few sexist statements in their life. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. They've all had a couple of wines and they've said a few things, you know.
Against Trump.
It's unbelievable, mate.
Sounds pretty crazy,
it's incredible, you know. And they think he's dangerous because of some of the things he's said. All he's done is been like a normal person after they've had a few beers. I mean, anybody's said these things. I've said these things. Anybody's said these things. You have a few, you get a bit of a party on. It happens when you're a teenager or whatever.
When you're young, dumb, full of
exactly.
growing up, enjoying
of course.
the boys and all the rest
of
it.
Of course, you know, everybody's done it. If they just look back on their lives and stop being in this little moral majority.
And the gossip between women and all that sort of stuff. It's
all of it. All of it.
Banter and hurtful, hateful.
It's all sexist. It's all. There's so many little comments that go on there just in normal social activity. So to be using this against him and seeing Hillary Clinton as a viable choice. I mean, when you look at the fact that he was running against Hillary Clinton, I mean, who else are you going to vote for? You're not going to vote for Hillary Clinton. You have to have rocks in your head. I mean, ultimately, this woman is a career criminal. She should be in jail. The fact that she's even allowed to run for the presidency it makes a complete mockery of the whole US political system and the US justice system.
So the Clintons and the Bushes are part of a crime syndicate who are really puppets for a deeper order. Some people call it deep state, shadow government, the cabal, the mafia. Who are these people?
Look, when you really look at it, there's a whole... Sure, there's a shadow government, but it's a shadow reality. I did a show about it probably within the last year where I talked about behind society is a shadow society that exists. And these people are into really deep, dark, occult stuff. You know, it's based on pedophilia, the amount of child trafficking that people don't talk about, 20,000 children a year imported into Queensland alone. Queensland, Australia, the state that I live in, 20,000 children are imported into this state and used in pedophile rituals, satanic rituals, whatever they do with these kids. That's one state in Australia, which is a small population. How many kids are trafficked around the United States, around Europe, around England? And how many kids are exported from places like the Philippines and stuff like this? The people that are doing this are into really deep, dark... Like the recent video that came out about, spirit cooking. Mm-hmm. You've seen that? Spirit cooking? Yeah, that Podesta video. This is what goes on. This is what goes on. This is literally what goes on all the time. In houses in this city that I live in the city that you live in Canberra, in Parliament House. This is what these people do. You know, there's a huge, dark, occult system that sits behind this, and what controls us basically is magic. It's our belief in following orders. It's our belief that we need rulers. It's our straying from our moral compass, our removal from natural law. You know, you look at who's doing this. It's a whole group, and it's all intertwined. All of them are intertwined, and it's until you can really be prepared to really look deep enough into that. You can point the finger at the Jews or the Jesuits or the Freemasons or whoever you want. Look beyond all that. They're all mechanisms. They're all mechanisms to keep you fighting amongst each other and arguing against each other. I think it's these guys. I think it's those guys. You don't agree with me, so you're a shill. You know, all this sort of stuff. There's so much going on to keep us divided. They don't care which one you want to point the finger at, as long as you're pointing it at someone and you're not looking beyond that, at what controls all that. And what controls all that is this dark energy that these people are in, this need to harvest energy from others, this need to carry out their sexual urges and all, just take it to the extreme with all these children and all the stuff they do. That's what's going on. Well, what's going on is the human race is being farmed and harvested. and they're distracted with all of these social bullshit that they're taught that is real and is important, and it's not. It's climbing the social ladder or having the latest pair of shoes or this or watching the latest movie and all this stuff. It's all completely irrelevant. You know, we've been so removed from ourselves that we're not even prepared to see that evil side of ourselves, which causes us to not believe it will exist in anybody else. We've got to love everybody, the New Age movement, all this shit, all this bullshit, forgiveness and tolerance and all this rubbish. You know, love thy enemy. Yeah, that gets us a long way.
It's important to forgive.
I mean,
it's important to be tolerant, but at the same time,
until people
bullshit.
Until people realise how they're being played and what is really going on here and what really controls this species and what really controls this situation, we have no hope of change at all. And people are constantly looking for leaders. They're constantly looking for a way out. They're looking for a new document or a new contract or a new this or a new that or a new whatever. They want someone to lead us to safety. They're not prepared to change themselves and always operate in their moral compass and apply it to the world around them. And if you see someone operating outside of their moral compass, say something. Do something. Intervene. Say something. Do something about it. You know, like, what's wrong with people? How can we tolerate this world that we live in and sit here and look at it and say it's okay to be bombing Syria and having all these wars? How can we say it's okay to even be voting for Malcolm Turnbull when he's providing air support for ISIS terrorists in Syria? You know, he's supporting the US in their covert invasion of that country, which is what it is, and he's providing air support for terrorists. This is our Prime Minister. Why are people arguing over Trump when we've got a Prime Minister who's supporting a foreign invasion of a national country, you know, and a terrorist army that's doing it, and enslaving this country to death and fracking it and destroying the water table and all the stuff they're doing.
And he's an ex-CEO of Managing Director of Goldman Sachs.
He's an ex-investment banker.
That's not the biggest conflict of interest I've ever heard.
He's an ex-investment banker. He's an open Zionist. He openly supports the state of Israel and its ethnic cleansing of Palestine. He's destroying the water table in this country. He's taking the rights away from the people as much as he can. He's pushing microchipping, mandatory vaccinations, everything that we don't want. I mean, he's incarcerating. Look what they're doing to the Aboriginal people in this country. You want to see ethnic cleansing? Go out and have a look through the Northern Territory in Western Australia, what they're doing to the Aboriginal people. We've got apartheid laws in this country. You know, all up through South Australia and Northern Territory, there's all apartheid laws.
And there's Western Papua New Guinea as
intervention laws, they call it, or whatever it is, you know. It's absurd. Look at the amount of refugees we have in detention centres, people that have desperately fled their country, that we put them on Christmas Island and in Villawood and all these horrible detention centres, kids that are growing up in there, spending their whole lives in these places. You know, how can we tolerate this and allow our government to be bombing Syria and they're protesting Trump in the street because they think he's sexist? Are these people even sane?
Well, it's ignorance. It's engineered ignorance via the mainstream media and the education system which is an indoctrination system. So people just aren't aware. They don't get it.
I know they're not aware, but you know, it's got to the point. I mean, like, I've been doing this on air for 9 years now, and you know, I've spent just about everything I've got. I've done everything I can to try to wake the world up, and people are still so asleep. I mean, there's a lot of consciousness, sure, a lot of people are realising that something's terribly wrong, but hey, if they haven't realised that by now, I mean, what's wrong with these people? What's wrong with these people? If you can't see what's going on, if there's anybody out there who still believes Muslims carried out 9/11, I mean, I'm sorry, but you're terminally stupid. You know, you've got rocks in your head. I mean, I don't know how anybody could look at the world today and think that what we've done since 9/11 has been in any way beneficial and that we are in any way fighting terrorism. We're not. We're going out and conducting terrorism right around the world. We're destroying country after country after country. Now Europe is being overrun with migrants because we've destroyed all these countries. Gaddafi said that if you take out Libya, Europe will be overrun with migrants within 5 years. That was his prediction, because Libya is the cork in the bottle of Africa. You know, Libya is what everybody used to, all the migrants coming up, all the refugees would come up and they'd stop in Libya. Gaddafi would look after them. They'd give them jobs, they'd work them out, it'd all be good. You know, he contained all of that, and they took that out, and all those terrorists and all the extremists that the US funded in Libya, that was where they cooked up their army. They cooked it up in Libya and in Iraq, and then they pushed them all into Syria to overrun Syria. These are all US funded, Israeli funded, Saudi funded terrorists that are there. It's a covert invasion. Because the US
cleansing of Europeans too, isn't it?
Well, it is. If you look at the Kalergi plan written in 1928, by Jews in 1928. They said they planned out the genocide of the European people via mass migration. 1928. 1928. And they're doing it through Syria. And most of the refugees, and everyone thinks, oh, these are all refugees coming from the bombing of Syria. A lot of them are coming from Libya and Africa and all through there as well.
A lot of them genuine refugees, a lot of them genuine
They're coming from everywhere. It's really easy to just come up through Libya, pick up a fake Syrian passport and head straight to Europe. You know, you can walk there. So, you know, it's amazing what they've done. But
you talked about the journey that we're going through about, you know, not needing authority, not needing government, and not needing people like a ruling class, so to speak. But we've always had that. This is an ancient journey, isn't it? This is an ancient journey of emancipation which goes well beyond the material realm. It even goes into the emotional, the DNA, even an energetic or a conscious point of view as well. It's like a spiritual war in many ways. So we've been doing it for so bloody long. Do you think we're making headway?
In some ways, we're making headway. Sure, there's a lot of awakening. There's you know, the fact that people voted for Trump shows we're making headway. Shows that people want change, but they still, you know, they're still not anywhere near awake enough. We are making a little bit of headway. There's been so many things that have been interjected into the movement, if that's what you want to call it, to the conscious awakening, into this whatever it is we're doing. This move to awaken consciousness and shift consciousness, this move to suddenly become aware and what we should be, you know. But there's so many distractions, you know. The New Age movement, all these religions. Religion, I don't do any religion at all.
Materialism, we talked about this earlier too.
Materialism, the whole social system, you know, the whole concept of climbing the social ladder, the fact that it's all about social standing, it's about economic gain, and that's what wealth is, and that's what life's about, the accumulation of stuff, all these sorts of things. But all the mechanisms that are there to divide us, and all the mechanisms that are there to pacify us, you know, the different movements. You know, you join a movement with a leader, and you get the newsletter waiting to tell you the world has changed, because you send them $1 every month. That's not going to do anything. You know, you've got to change yourself and how you apply yourself to the world. So I'm seeing a lot of people becoming aware that there's something wrong, but they're not becoming aware of what the solution is because they're scared of the solution, because the solution requires self-application. You know, and people aren't prepared to apply themselves. They want a leader. You know, they want to rally behind someone who's going to lead them to safety, so they can just all maintain their little jobs and do what they do. It's the fact that you even believe you need these little jobs and that you believe you need this whole social structure that is the problem. You know, until you get over that, no one can lead you out of that. You're just going to put a new puppet up there who's going to tell you what to do. Okay, now do things this way. You're all better now. Here, have a few more handouts. It doesn't work that way. You know, people have to change themselves. Hopefully, what's happened in the United States will help them see that. You know, hopefully this will usher in some new era of understanding. You know, you look at Russia saying they want to, you know, make amends, and Assad say they want to make amends. Hopefully that will do it. But I mean, there's been a kind of an awakening. People are kind of shaking off their sleep out of their eyes a little bit, but they still can't see the room that they're in. They still don't really know where they are. It's like, you know, what happened? How did I get here? Where am I?
It's made really hard by the independent media who don't have any type of unification at all either. They're divided. The entire Truth and Freedom Network is divided, and both purposely designed, and also by self-manifestation.
Oh, everybody wants to be the latest guru. Everyone thinks that if you don't agree with everything they say, then you're a shill. No one's open to discussion on anything. Everyone's locked into their belief systems. I believe it's these guys. I believe it's this. I believe that. I believe the Earth is flat. I believe it's a globe. You know, whatever. They're all locked into their beliefs. I don't believe anything. I believe this. You know, I know this is here. Well, kind of. You know, and this that.
Into your heart chakra.
Well, this that's still figuring it out. This is me is the only thing I'm an authority on, really, and I'm still figuring it out. So, you know,
we'll be figuring it out for the rest of our lives, mate.
Exactly. So, you know, being locked into belief systems is the problem, and everyone trying to inflict their belief systems on everyone else. That's how we have wars and all that sort of stuff. That's how the government manufactures wars. You know, see, even the whole concept of there's a threat. See, that's the big problem at the moment with Trump coming to office. And they're saying, oh, look, he wants to make amends with Russia and Assad, and we don't want these people. They're our enemies. Yeah, because the current system needs an enemy. You know what I'm saying? They get behind closed doors, and what are they doing behind closed doors? You know,
But
why are all these discussions going on behind closed doors? Because they're friends. They're doing stuff together. They're conspiring to enslave their populations. And all the governments are colluding to do this through this fake war of terror. You know, and if suddenly we have someone like Trump come to power and start creating peace around the world, suddenly governments get smaller and smaller. The military machine gets smaller and smaller. All this massive dollars that are being spent on military and killing people suddenly can get spent on creating a better world. You know, so the last thing they want is peace, because peace leads to freedom for the people. Peace leads to...
At the very top of this power pyramid, though, we're talking a very small amount of people. They're compartmentalised. Even most of the politicians and bureaucrats in Australia, for example, they wouldn't know fuck all about this. They're just brainwashed and programmed like the rest of us. Police, military, all of them.
But most of them are compromised because of this pedophile network. You'd be surprised. Like, think about it. 20,000 children imported into Queensland a year alone.
My nan believes the judge, she's like 85, and she believes the judges are involved in pedophilia. So,
of course they are.
You know, it's just,
of course they are. You would be surprised at the amount of people that are compromised. You would be surprised. So, you know, when you have people in power, it may be compartmentalised and nobody really knows what's going on. But when you have all of these people involved in these circles, I mean, call them satanic rings, whatever you want to call them. I mean, I don't really do Satan, I don't do all that sort of stuff, but I mean, what else can you call it? That's just a name for it, evil, you know, whatever it is. But you'd be surprised at how far this network spiders down to your local police force and your local church and your local school community. You'd be surprised how many lower level people won't speak up because they're part of this whole pedophile network.
But there's good people too?
There's probably some good people within politics.
Absolutely there is,
but
surely.
You find that people, even people that you think are good people, they get into politics and suddenly they've changed. Look at Peter Garrett. Spoken out, big environmentalist for years. Suddenly, as soon as he joined the government, he was like a different person. What happened when he joined the government? What party did he go to? How did he get compromised?
He got the hard, long
What
track.
photographs did they get of him? What's really going on? You know? A lot of the big rock stars, a lot of the big celebrities, there's so many people that are involved in this pedophile network. And if the government and what sits behind the government is really exposed as what it is, the tentacles are going to go so far down through society, and so many people are going to be surprised at just how many people are involved in this shadow world, this dark satanic occult world that exists behind our society, that is farming this society.
For our evolution, we need it, right? We need the truth exposed.
We need the truth exposed. But people simply aren't prepared to go there. They want to say, oh, it's the Jesuits, it's the Jews, it's this, it's that. And these are all mechanisms. Sure, like Zionism is a mechanism that's being used to destabilize the world, the Middle East, all this stuff, but it's a great thing for you to point the finger at. Same as the Jesuits, same as this, same as that, same as the Vatican, same as whatever, the Freemasons, you know. They're all parts of it. They're all different secret societies, but they're all ultimately part of this dark force. You know, and this dark force is virtually, it's a lifestyle, it's a religion, it's what they do, it's who they are, it's what they worship, it's the energy that they're in. This spirit cooking thing, this stuff goes on all the time in these dark circles, these parties that the elite have, that the rich people, you know, not all of them, sure, there's rich people out there that are just rich people. But you'd be surprised how far this network goes and how deeply it is infiltrated into our society. And the reason it exists is because people simply aren't prepared to talk about it. It's taboo, it's a taboo topic. And you've got to love everybody and forgive everybody. No, I won't forgive these pedophiles. I won't love these pedophiles. These people are dark. These people have bad energy. These people are doing terrible things to my brothers and sisters. I can't forgive them. I want them to go away. I mean, sure, I don't want to hurt them. I don't want to hurt anybody. It's not in my nature to want to hurt anybody. But I can't just turn a blind eye to it and be tolerant of it.
Well, it's part of facing the shadow self, isn't it? As you mentioned before. For those who might not know, Satanism isn't the worship of Satan, it's the worship of yourself. You are God. You are the God who has the right to rule over the people, essentially. So you can do whatever you want at the expense of anything, at anyone else, even if it contradicts natural law.
Well, yeah, and we've got to, until we can get over that, until we can wake up to ourselves and wake up to natural law and start operating in natural law, we're never going to get anywhere. Hopefully that's what this Trump presidency will do. Hopefully, I mean, I'm not expecting any real change or anything real good to come from Donald Trump being president, except hopefully a further awakening of the people. The fact that he didn't do anything. Maybe he will do a few things, and maybe it will get the rats running scared, and it certainly seems to at the moment. But these protests seem so contrived, and it seems to be such a play that I'm losing more confidence in him every day. But he still may do some good things. You don't know, but if he does, he'll probably get assassinated. So
what do we need? Okay, there's a lot of people who are anarcho-capitalists, right, where they want no government and just a free market capitalist society. There's other people who want the abundance-based economy or resource-based economy. That's something I more sway towards. I think we should remove money and automate things to a certain degree and free people up for creative adventure and more community. But hey, that's an ideal. It's a societal ideal that I believe in, or I think I believe in, but I might be wrong. But regardless, there's all these different ideals, society ideals that people have, which has caused further division on what we should do now. Because that's not going to happen tomorrow. We're not going to have zero government tomorrow. We're not going to have a mass awakening tomorrow. We're not going to have an ideal utopian situation tomorrow or anytime bloody soon. So what are our next steps? What do we actually should be doing, should be focusing on as a bit of a network? I don't think we should call it a group. Or a movement, because I spoke to Ollie Damagard the other day, and he said all groups get infiltrated, and it was a brilliant insight. I said that's exactly right. This is more of a truth and freedom network. So, and as you said, no leaders as well. But shouldn't we be working in a general direction together?
Well, yeah, we should. But what that's got to be is freedom and seeing what the future looks like. I mean, it's interesting, looking at the whole concept of anarcho-capitalism versus sustainable society. What were you saying? Resource-based economy, all that sort of stuff. It depends on your concept of money. You got Tellinger with his Ubuntu system as well. So
Peter Joseph, he's a smart guy, really.
A smart guy, but I don't agree with a lot of what the Venus Project's got to offer either. But I mean, if you're going to have a city. If you're going to have a city and you're going to have an economy, maybe that would work. But I mean, the aspects of it maybe. I mean, all of these things need to be looked at rather than everything be taken as a whole and shut out as a whole. There's aspects of all of them that could be looked at. Yeah. I mean, personally...
What do we do now, though? What's the question?
Well, what we do now is we change our moral compass. Nothing's going to change until we change our moral compass. That's the thing. Again, when you're even looking at all these different ideas... the resource-based economy, the anarcho-capitalism society, you're still looking at a leader, you're still looking at this concept that someone's going to put all this stuff in place and, okay, now we're going to walk this way now. Until we've changed this, it's not going to matter. Until we start doing the right thing by people, it's not going to matter what we do.
What does that look
and
like?
Even when you look at an anarcho-capitalist society, I mean, capitalism ultimately is exploitation. A lot of people won't like me saying that, but it is ultimately. You're making a product and you're exploiting it and you're selling it and you're getting profit from people. But what if you don't need money? I mean, in a society where we've got currency, we've got something that we're passing around for trade, okay, that sort of thing would work. Anarcho-capitalism would be great. But what if we could go beyond that to a point where we don't need money? And if we could change our moral compass, we could do that. That's the thing. And I give so much to people. That's all I do is give to people. I give away so much stuff. I just give to people, and people give back, and it just works. My life just works. I don't want for anything, and and stuff that I've got, I give away. If I've got an abundance of something, I give it to someone else, So it just works, and I don't know. I don't try for it to work. It just works. And I think that there's a way of getting beyond money, but no matter what we do, it's people's need for someone to come along and offer them this structured reality that is going to lead them to safety. That is the problem to begin with. The fact that they can't see that they need to restructure what's inside them, restructure their moral compass and apply that to everybody that they come in contact with, and it will change itself. The world will change around them. I mean, if I'm doing that, if you do that, and John does that, and other people do that, suddenly we're all just doing that, and society just works, life just works, things just work. Where's the problem with your neighbours? What's the problem really about? It's about this whole concept of social ladders and social economic systems and all this rubbish that you've been fed, which causes you to even have a problem with these people.
Scarcity, division,
scarcity and division. It's ridiculous. This whole money system that we've got at the moment creates division. It creates scarcity. That's its purpose. All money does is create scarcity.
And enslavement.
Well, yeah, debt slavery, for sure. Well, this fiat system, what we've got now with the fractional reserve, I mean, even beyond that, I mean, the fact that it's created out of debt, you create it yourself. I mean, we won't even get into that. That's a 3-hour discussion. So this money system is a joke. But
when it comes to, self-regulation, self-empowerment, those sorts of key concepts are important to change the world. But what about local action? What about actual things that we can practically do to help move in that general direction?
Well, I've always said getting to know your neighbours and starting community gardens and approaching your local councils and authorities and having discussions with them.
Because they're just people, right?
They're just people. They're just people. I mean, but again, until you start operating from a moral centre, it's not going to work. It's like the whole sovereignty thing, you know. People want to find the path to sovereignty. Well, what makes you think you're not already sovereign? You know, and if you've got to go through all these loopholes and you've got to fill out a form and send your birth certificate back to the Vatican and do all this stuff and establish all these rules and fill out all these forms to become sovereign, how free do you think you are to begin with? What are you doing that for? If I've got to do anything and fill out anything, tell me why. If I'm not sovereign, explain to me how. Explain to me how you have a right of ownership over this vessel, please. You know, why do I have to go through any of your hoops to prove that I'm free? Prove to me that I'm not, please.
It's a state of mind, isn't it?
It's a state of mind, you know, and it's the same thing. It's the same thing. It doesn't matter what system is put in place, that anybody comes along to offer you the path to your freedom. If you don't know you're free and you're not prepared to stand in your morals and adjust your moral compass to do what is right, know what is good and bad, what it actually means to do good and to do bad, and you do. People know this. So why don't they ever apply it? Why do they allow themselves to be led outside their moral compass because it says on the paper they have to do this? I had no choice. This guy wrote it down on paper. Look, it's got a fancy stamp on it.
And what you're talking about now is philosophical introspection, right? Because a lot of people in the Truth Network or Freedom Network are aware of the problems in the system, but they haven't done the self-work, the inner work, the self-reflection to determine their true nature and how they're connecting with these concepts such as sovereignty.
Exactly, you know, and there's too much in the so-called truth movement of people wanting to be the next guru, and like I said, disagreeing with everybody who disagrees with them. If you disagree with me a little bit, you're a shill. I mean, it's absurd, you know. Nobody knows what freedom looks like. Everyone's got an idea, but nobody really knows what it looks like because we've never been free. You know, and until we can develop some respect for each other and realise that we're all facing a common foe here, and that common foe is evil, really. It's what has caused us to step outside our moral compass.
We're out of balance as socially.
So, I mean, we can point our finger at Hillary Clinton all we want, but Hillary Clinton is a product of our... It's a reflection of our failure to step inside of our moral compass.
And I love what you say, step into your power.
Yeah, I mean, she's a result of our failure, as is Trump. Trump is a natural progression. Trump had to happen. You know, he is a natural product of our failure to be in our moral compass and to allow people like Hillary Clinton and the Bushes and all these people to have run the world into the state that it's in. So it doesn't matter what anybody presents to anybody. It doesn't matter what people think freedom looks like. Until they're prepared to respect others enough to know that everybody's got a piece of the puzzle, everybody has their own idea of what it may look like, and is prepared to turn and face the shadow, we're not going to get anywhere.
And be open to hearing other points of view and maybe going, well, I could learn from that.
Exactly.
How hard is that?
Exactly. I don't have all the answers. I can't solve your life. I can't solve humanity's woes. All I can do is offer my opinion, and that's all I've got to offer is my perspective and my opinion.
And the mainstream narratives are programmed to basically disempower people so they're not connected with what it means to really understand the self, let alone the various layers of self, the outside world, and also everything in between.
Exactly, exactly.
In the background, there's a beautiful picture from Peru that you got there, with a lot of shamanic, excuse me, imagery, um, and it really does reflect what we're talking about here about philosophical introspection and going within to look at the dance of energy that we play with, and we all do it in different ways. We're all interconnecting and manipulating and emitting energy and attracting energy within this electromagnetic sort of life force consciousness grid that we're sort of this reality construct that we're in. And that is some of the magic that exists in our world, and a lot of people don't tap into it. So how about you describe what your experience is from that neo-shamanistic point of view?
Well, it confirmed a lot of my understandings of what reality is. You know, the reason this whole shamanistic culture has sort of come to prominence now, and the reason the shaman have come out of the jungle and even brought this medicine to the world, and it is a medicine, it's not a hallucinogen.
Ayahuasca?
Yeah, ayahuasca and plant medicines, jungle entheogens.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people think that they're hallucinogenic substances, but they're not.
They're not recreational.
They're not recreational. You don't say, hey, let's have some ayahuasca and go out on the town. You know, it's not like that. Like you do with acid or whatever. You know, like, it's not like that. It's a deeply moving experience. But the reason they've come out of the jungle and they've brought this medicine to the Western world is because they realise that the Western world is destroying our habitat. And if people do not develop a connection with nature and a connection with this earth that is providing our home for us, we're not going to have it. We're going to destroy this habitat that we live in. So
and this is part of the war on drugs, isn't it? To suppress these natural plant medicines that actually do fundamental and holistic healing on the individual.
That's why they lump them in with drugs. They call them drugs. Like even with cannabis, they call it a drug when it's not a drug. It's our companion plant. Mm-hmm. It's one of the most healing substances on Earth.
Because of our endocannabinoid system.
We have an endocannabinoid system in our body. It's the only plant we have an endocrine system in our body for. Mm-hmm. You don't have an endo-lettuce system or an endo-rhubarb system, an endo-potato system. You have an endocannabinoid system. Why? Because we've had a very, very long symbiotic relationship with this plant. And when they banned this plant, everybody started getting sick. Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis, all these exotic diseases started manifesting. Cancer went through the roof.
Because we used to grow a lot of it in Australia, didn't we?
Used to grow. Well, that's when Australia was founded. When the settlers came out here, the main crop they grew was cannabis. They grew it in the Hunter Valley. They grew it for all the sails and all the stuff that the British needed for their navy and clothing, everything. That was the main crop that they grew when they got it. So interesting, if you really look back at history, you think when you got sentenced in England as a convict, you got sent to Australia to grow weed.
Oh no, please don't send me to paradise.
Yeah, hard times. You have to leave the horrible little cold block of England. I mean, it's a beautiful country, but it's horribly cold. And come to paradise in Australia and grow weed for the government. Hey, let's go. I'd steal a loaf of bread for that. Of course, you had to survive the journey on the ship and all that sort of stuff to get out here. It was pretty brutal. But that was the main crop that they grew here, cannabis. But cannabis is our companion plant. We've got an endocannabinoid system in our body, and it's a very, very healing plant. I've cured cancers. I've cured Lyme's disease, throat cancer, all sorts of things.
It helps with kids' seizures, it helps with a whole
autism, all sorts of things. It's amazing.
If we really want to move towards a step towards freedom, my view is to completely disconnect and disengage any government interference with cannabis at all. It
Absolutely.
should be completely done. People can grow their own plant if they
Absolutely.
need it themselves, and we need to educate society on what plant medicines. I mean, the spiritual sort of collateral that can come out of that, from just discussing how we connect with the plant kingdom, it would be phenomenal for reshaping the consumerist and materialist ideology that people really are embedded into. So that, I think, would be a great manoeuvre towards freedom.
Well, absolutely, and they should remove all laws restricting the use of cannabis. They're all unjustified. They all came in under false pretenses. They're all brought in by Harry Anslinger and all that crew in the FBI and the whole prohibition era in the United States.
Fund black op programs in America for years, right? That's part of public record now.
Cannabis isn't a drug. You know, they lump it in the same as drugs such as amphetamines and speed and heroin and all this sorts of stuff. Now, cannabis oil, which is a concentrated, the oil...
Which you don't even get stoned on.
Well, you do. You get very stoned on.
With the hemp oil,
like hash oil, proper black cannabis oil. That is classed as a Class A drug, the same as heroin. You know, it cures cancer.
Oh, you're talking about hashish, yeah. But
And,
so is there any THC in some of the?
Oh,
hemp oil?
absolutely.
Oh, right. Okay.
Not in the hemp oil that you buy in the supermarket, there
Right.
isn't, but in the oil that you extract from the plant, there is. That's highly psychoactive.
Yeah.
But that cures cancer, it cures lymphoma, it cures Lyme's disease. It cured my skin cancer with one application. I had a big lump of skin cancer on my back, one application of cannabis oil, and it
On
just,
the outside of the skin?
I just put it on the outside, mixed it with coconut oil, put it on the outside,
Wow.
and the cancer ate itself, disappeared, no scarring, gone. So
And
it's
the war on drugs completely has done this, isn't it? Suppressed all these psychotropics and other, even the synthetics.
well,
like
the war on
MDMA
the
or
war
whatnot.
on drugs is simply to provide income. It's the same as the war on anything. When government provides a war on something, they start a war on something, means they're running it. You know, the government is the one, like in the United States, for example, the government brings all the cocaine in, brings all the heroin in, brings all the drugs into the people, and then it fines the people and busts them and puts them in jail to populate the prison system, gets the
Which is
revenue from
private.
fining them. You're all privately run. It's all privately run. It's all done to enslave the people. It's all about revenue collection. Whenever a government has a war on anything, and that's always the American way, we have a war on it. A war on poverty, have a war on homelessness,
Let's
have a war on...
common sense. So.
Yeah, well, they've already done that, I think. War on
We
freedom.
might have it. We
You know?
might generate some.
But it's unreal, isn't it? You know, like they have a war on something, it always gets worse. It means that they're just funneling a lot of money into it, so they're running the whole show. That's really what it's about. I mean, most of America's economy is so shot that if they were to ban the drug trade, or they were really stop the drug trade in the United States, there'd be no cash floating around the streets. It's all being sent to Israel. So the whole US economy would completely collapse if they stopped importing heroin into the country. That's why you notice when, like when Iran-Contra happened, they were running it all through cocaine from South America. Then all the Iran-Contra thing happened, which the Bush family was heavily involved in. They moved operations to Afghanistan and started funneling heroin into the country. That's when the heroin got really big. And then, of course, the Taliban moved in and stopped all the heroin trade in Afghanistan. So the coalition went in there to stop the terrible Taliban oppressing the women. And now we've got more opium coming out of the Golden Triangle than ever before. Like 4 or 5 times the amount that was ever coming out is now coming out. Now that it's controlled by America, England, and Australia. I think he's mentioned it. But
coming through.
that's all coming out of the Golden Triangle. It's all run by US interests. That's what the US went into Afghanistan for, was to stop the Taliban, because the whole drug trade was floating the US economy. If they stopped the heroin trade into America, there'd be no money on the street. So that's why there's such bad drug problems in America. So, and there was a guy, I think he killed himself recently. Might have been him. He was a activist, a truther. I can't remember his name. It escapes me for the moment, which is terrible. But he was an ex-police officer who uncovered all this. That there was huge drug trafficking going on in, I think it was LA or New York. And he became a truth activist, and it was all being funneled in through Afghanistan. That's what the whole war in Afghanistan was about, was keeping the heroin trade going. So that's why they went in there so quickly.
But the societal detriments to the war on drugs, it's not just the prison population, the addiction, the fact that they're controlling the money and earning the money, and criminalising such a huge industry. I think it's like one of the top 5 industries in the world. But it's also the societal damage on how impure substances are flooding the market. People are uneducated what benefits there are to actual altered states of perception, and just the harm. There's just so much suffering because it's just made taboo and sent underground. So taking a harm minimisation approach, such as I have in certain countries in Europe and elsewhere, and also undertaking an education process to, instead of just, here society, have some alcohol to fuel the aggression that you've built up during the week of working in a job that you hate, release it on the weekend, lose your mind, forget about all your problems and go and repeat. That's what we've got. And tobacco, and obviously sugar, a massive drug that is impacting a lot of people, especially their physical health. So we need to take a harm minimisation approach to drugs in the first step, and society really should get behind that if they did their proper research.
Well, they should, and again, it's people adjusting their moral compass. That's what's going to do that, and you're not going to do that until you've got some sort of an honest political system, because that's who puts all these laws and stuff in place. But again, even when people are being handed down these laws, they need to vet them. They need to ask who's vetting them. Hang on, why are you making me do this when this is making me step outside my moral compass? You know, so, I mean, we could change all this right away. Again, we could. All of it. If people who worked within these industries started doing the right thing and started questioning the authority that is telling them to do the wrong thing.
I have a faith they will. Maybe they'll be called upon one day to make the choice between freedom or control, or freedom and slavery.
But it's interesting, like you see those tests they did where they, remember that dummy test they did where they had the guy pretending to give electric shocks to someone?
Yeah.
And he's told to give this guy a
and
to give this guy a near lethal dose. He did it because he was told to. And it's like, why? Really? Like, but he did it anyway. You know?
There's a lot of self-healing.
That's the thing. That's the thing, is people's willingness to do that, to give that lethal dose because they were told to do it. You know, so no matter what we do, again,
can't we program the sheep to actually do the right thing?
Well, it's educating them in the right manner, and with the education system that we've got, which is trained to instill an unquestioning respect for authority into people. You categorise people, put them in groups, you know, so you've got all the people of the same age, all competing with each other, being over. I mean, that's no way to educate people. The whole classroom concept and the grading of students. This all straight away. This is peer group pressure and respect for authority. And you're an A class person or a B class person or a C class person or a D class person. You know, and you know, if you question authority, your mate to step in the corner of the room and put on a dunce hat, and everyone points at you and laughs at you.
Drugs, so you get zombified.
Exactly. So it's changing that, because that's where it begins. You know, and it even begins before then, because the parents that are raising the children have already been through all that. So they're onto the kids straight away before they even join school. So it's parents, it's people's programming to not look at their morals, to not look at their moral compass, to not know what the difference between good and bad and right and wrong. You know, until you can get people out of that mindset and get people to understand the basic concept of good and bad and right and wrong, then it doesn't matter what you do. There is no hope for this society, no matter what system anybody brings in, until you can find a way of breaking that programming, because that is really deep indoctrination. And that is the whole essence of how we are controlled. It's our tolerance of evil, our tolerance of bad existing, our unwillingness to do anything about it because we're told not to.
Allows it to amplify.
It allows it to amplify, it allows it to continue. And it's this whole religious mentality that people have with the New Age movement and all this airy-fairy stuff that we're told of tolerance and rah-rah-rah. It's all duality, rah-rah-rah. You know, all this stuff. People's unwillingness to face the truth and face the facts of what's actually going on around them, and their willingness to look away when they see evil happening in front of them, and they see a crime being perpetrated against another living being in front of them. And they believe that crime is okay and it should be tolerated because the person committing the crime is in uniform.
So to do the reprogramming, or to do the self-healing, what does that mean? Going back to the shamanism, which is about healing and about real introspection and connection. How do we self-heal? Well,
knowing yourself, knowing who and what you are, and knowing that everybody else is that as well. You know, I've tried to go through this in so many ways on the shows when I've talked about, you know, your uniqueness and how no one can see the world from your perspective, and that there's only one consciousness, there's only one of us here. Your consciousness doesn't exist out in your body, it exists in the field. This body is simply tuned to that frequency that downloads that frequency that I see as max, and I see the world from that frequency's perspective. And realizing that I have as much worth, and that you have as much worth, and that everybody has as much worth, where there's only really one of us here. But it has to be in a world of duality, or else we wouldn't be able to experience ourselves. You know, it's knowing what you are and knowing what you're capable of, knowing that you are capable of the darkest evil. That opportunity is there to go wrong, because without that opportunity, you wouldn't have the choice to go right.
Freedom, isn't it?
It's people's refusal to see that dark evil exists within themselves as well. You know the choices there.
We're made of everything, right?
You know the choices there. People say, "Oh no, you think that's you're just, oh my God, no, that doesn't exist in me." No, it does. You're just fully in denial of it. You're probably the one who goes and does this stuff. You know, because it does exist in everybody. You've got that choice. You have to have that choice. Otherwise, there's no choice to go right. But it's your choice. It's your choice to do what is right.
So you retune your frequency to a new channel. Connect with yourself to understand where you're not facing yourself, and then face yourself. Right?
Face your shadow. Yeah. Face the shadow. Look at the shadow. Dig through it.
So there are little practical steps we can make, such as the harm minimisation approach to drugs. I think electoral reform is an area we should focus on as well, because we're not going to get anywhere where we want to be soon. So we have to take baby steps to get there. What are other baby steps you think that we should be focusing on?
Well, making noise for a start. We've got to be approaching politicians and letting them know that the game is up, and not asking them to please, make changes, telling them we want them to make changes. We're demanding them that they make changes, that we know the truth about these substances now. We know the truth about cannabis. We know how healing it is. There isn't any debate on this. The evidence is already in. We don't need to have government investigations. We've already done independent studies which have proved that all the government investigations and all the laws that they put in have been flawed, and that it was banned under false pretenses to begin with. And guess who did that? Government. So we're not asking you to look for ways to remedy the situation. We're simply telling you to remedy the situation now, and if you won't, we'll put people in place who will be responsible enough to do so. That's the approach people need to have with it. They're going to get a backbone and stand up for themselves and start calling things for what they are. Don't be sweet about it. Be firm about it.
Well, it's a matter of fact these days, isn't it?
Be polite, but be firm, I mean, the studies are already in. There's no reason that this plant needs to remain banned, and any politician who supports the continued prohibition of this plant needs to be removed from office and held accountable for crimes against humanity for that fact, because the banning of this plant ultimately constitutes a crime against humanity. The damage that it's done, through the health system, how unhealthy the human race has become. All the stuff we're doing, all the chemicals that were being pumped into us, and all the GM food and everything, even the wars. I mean, look at it. Give these people a couple of joints, I'm guaranteed they're not going to be starting all these wars. That's what's wrong with the world, a massive cannabinoid deficiency. That's what's wrong with both our health and our psychology. So they need to remove all restrictions surrounding this plant immediately and hold any politician who won't do so accountable for their actions. That's the stance people need to have in regard to cannabis.
Another way to be a real rebel is to grow your own food, isn't it?
Absolutely.
You're being self-sustainable, you're providing your own nutrition-dense, chemical-free foods.
Yeah, a lot of people can't do that because they're in city situations, Get out of cities. Get out of cities as well. I mean, if you've got any way of getting out of the city, get out of the city.
Exit the rat race the best you can.
These places are danger zones. These places are constructed to implode. Once they cut off supplies to the cities, these places are going to implode. And you don't want to be in a city when that happens. That's one of the reasons they push people into them, these concentrated pockets of civilization. It's easy to control the mindset of the people, the consciousness of the people, everything about their lives. You can control them when they're in that sort of an environment.
There's electromagnetic pollution as well.
All of it. But mainly through control of food and water and the mindset of the people, the environment they're in. Growing your own food is one of the most rebellious things you can do, because that's removing most of your cost of living straight away. Getting out of the city into a more sustainable type of an area to live in,
And practicing preventative health as well.
You're
not putting all these chemicals and toxins in your body. You're actually creating a good environment for health and happiness to prosper.
Yeah, but everyone needs to be making noise about all this stuff. That's the first step.
And being a part of your community too, I went up to, Buderim, which is an urban food street in Queensland yesterday, and spoke to the creators of that. And all that it is a small community who are growing food on their front lawns so that there's free food for the kids and for each other. They've seen massive community engagement, people wanting to move there, and a more, one of the other key words was safety and security, because people were engaged and watching each other and helping each other. So that's a real simple platform, community food, to building more inclusive communities and start taking a little bit more self-determination and sovereignty with the approach to life.
Yeah, well, that's a great way to do it. I mean, that's what we were suggesting in Byron a few years ago, is putting in vegetable gardens in your front yards. Of course, you try to do this in the United States and people are getting fined for doing so. But when that sort of a thing happens, the rest of the community needs to step in and also start putting gardens in their front yards. If everybody starts doing it, then the government has nowhere to go. They can't fine you if everyone just starts doing it. You know, people have got to readjust their perspective of what government's supposed to be. It's supposed to be there to look after us. And preventing you from growing your own food is not looking after you in any way. And yeah, if you've got any way of doing it, I suggest people do it. And even if you live in an apartment building, you know, if you've got balconies out the front where you could grow one vegetable in window boxes and the people upstairs can grow another one, and you can share your carrots and potatoes and lettuces and tomatoes and whatever. You can share it all. So it also provides a communal aspect to your apartment block if you want to do it that way. You know, there's ways you can go about it. So,
and growing food connects you with nature. It connects you with some of the simple stuff, the intangibles of life. Some of the real, because a lot of people lack purpose, right?
Yeah.
They're stuck in the materialistic construct. They've got a poor self-image, poor self-esteem. They're not really connected with themselves, and they're looking for a way to reconnect with what it truly means to be human right now. Food is a great approach to that.
Yeah, and just getting your hands dirty in the soil, it does something. It reconnects you to the earth. You know, it's important that we get that connection back. Like we were saying before, it's why the shaman have come out of the forest and brought ayahuasca and stuff to the world, because we've got to get that connection back to the earth, or else we're just going to continue to destroy it.
And there's so much goodness to come out of, for example, MDMA has been shown to have a 80% success rate at curing PTSD, and that is notoriously difficult and known to be really hard to cure.
That was its original purpose. So they used to give MDMA to rape victims, and they found out that people actually liked it, so they banned it. But they used to give it to rape victims, and it was also used for marriage counselling.
War veterans, marriage. Yeah. Okay, I didn't know that one.
Yeah. People would go and they're having a problem with their marriage, and the doctor would say, "Okay, well, go home and take one of these each, and come back and see me tomorrow." And they come back and they would both be in love again. So
we had heaps of hugs last night.
Yeah. So I mean, that's what those sorts of things were used for. But I mean, I think most of these situations that people have are just a result of this society. If we improve society, you won't need drugs like MDMA. Again, you're not going to improve society. You're not going to change anything until people step back into natural law and start obeying their moral compass. And the order followers have to do it. People have to stop obeying the dictates of order followers, and the order followers have to wake up to themselves. They really do. They've got to stop doing what they're told and start doing what is right.
You said before that it would be good to put the right people into power to undertake these sorts of changes. And there has been a shift, hasn't there? Because, for example, a friend of mine, he works on the local council and he's a very aware person. But also the shift in people not voting for the two-party tyranny that we've got here in Australia in the last election showed that they want something different. There was also in Iceland where the Pirate Party got like 15% of the vote, which is unprecedented. It was huge. So there are different factions or pockets of society who are connected with the fact that we do need to put another political arrangement into place. I think it has to be done through electoral reform if we're ever going to achieve anything. But from my point of view, I'd like to see us use all the tools that we've got. As I said, things aren't going to change tomorrow. So if there are people trying to get into some sort of political influence who want to implement the changes that we need, I think that's a good thing.
Well, yeah, because there's got to be a transitional period. I mean, ultimately, what we want is anarchy. What we want is self-governance.
Which means no rulers, right?
Anarchy means self-governance. It means no government. It means self-governance. But we need a highly educated society to do that.
So we're not ready for that, right?
We're not ready for it. I mean, people simply aren't ready for self-governance. I mean, some people are, but generally most people are not. So no matter how much you would like to go straight into a self-governance society, you've got to be realistic and realise that's not going to happen. There's got to be a transitional period. And in that transitional period, that is going to entail voting people who have an anarchist concept into the government system that we have now, so they can begin reducing the size of government, because there's a lot of people in our society that believe it's real, that believe this whole, what you write down on paper is real. They believe this whole thing. They're programmed to do it. It's going to take at least a generation, maybe two.
I would say more.
Two, yeah, well, at least one, maybe two, maybe three generations to re-educate people back to a point where they're even capable of self-governance. Where were we?
So we were just discussing before it cut out the re-education of society, and including those people, those bureaucrats, the journalists, the teachers, the doctors. There's a whole gamut of people who work within the system who need this re-education too.
Well, they do, and that's the thing. But we've got to, we can't just go straight to anarchy. We've got to have some sort of a transitional period. So, you need to vote people in. The problem is, like I said, with you've got 4 years, so there's every opportunity for infiltrators to get back in there and to lead us back in the wrong direction. That's the problem with voting people, good people in, unless they make real changes very quickly and bring new blood into the political system of awake and aware people who are prepared to continue to reduce the size of government. Within 4 years, you're going to have the same crew back in there. That's the problem. So, you know, it takes a real awareness, and of course, how are you going to do that? You've got to regain control of the media. And at the moment, we've got a media who's controlled by a handful of people, and that's the global media worldwide.
How sad is Australian media?
Oh, all media.
It's pathetic.
It's pathetic. It is. I mean, even the news anchors, they talk to people like they're school children, like they're just talking to little kids, and there's nothing. There's no substance on the media at all.
Based on propaganda.
It is. There's no journalism at all. You've got to look way outside the mainstream media for any form of journalism. It's just government propaganda, the whole thing.
And they believe it. You watch the shows like The Project, and they 100% believe what the hell they're crapping on about.
I don't know whether they do. They can't be that silly.
They certainly feel like it.
I don't know. It's amazing. But the people who watch TV believe it. I don't know whether the people who are on the TV believe it. I think they know what they're doing. I think these people are all part of that dark agenda that exists behind it. That's how they get in those positions. You know?
The people on The Project, they're just puppets. They think they're doing the right thing for society, but they're not.
Probably a lot of them are. I mean, I'm not even familiar with the show. So
no, it's like it's on Channel 10. It's like a progressive news sort of program, I guess.
Yeah, progressive news on television, I can imagine. You know, but the media is hugely complicit in all of the problems that we face. Even in the war on terror, the fake war on terror, war of terror, which is what it is, the invasion of Syria, the destruction of Iraq, the introduction of all of these laws that are oppressing us, the banning of cannabis.
Pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah, the banning of cannabis, the support of pharmaceutical companies, vaccinations, anything the government wants them to say, they say. And they're the ones who sell it to the people. And even when you look at the global situation with what I was saying, Syria and Iraq and these ridiculous invasions that are going on, the millions of people that have been killed, the media is hugely complicit in this because the media has promoted war propaganda to the people, which has justified the slaughter of millions. And war propaganda is the most serious war crime you can commit because without the propaganda of war promoting the war, none of the atrocities can take place. None of them can be justified. None of the ethnic cleansing, none of the genocide, none of the random bombings, none of the killing of civilians, bombing of schools and hospitals. None of this can happen without the media complicity.
Because the people might actually be informed and say no.
People would be informed and say no if they knew that our government was literally over there at the moment supporting ISIS and Al-Qaeda terrorists, providing air support for them, bombing hospitals and bombing. We even participated in that bombing raid apparently that took out all of the Syrian military, all the Syrian soldiers and all the Syrian army.
Which is the provoking Syria and Russia into war.
Exactly. I mean, we did that. Australian government did that. That's terrorism. And the people who are fighting these people, remember, fighting the Syrian government is ISIS, Al-Nusra Front, Al-Qaeda. These are all terrorist forces who are fighting the Syrian army.
There are no moderate
And we went in there and we bombed the people who are fighting these terrorists. We provided air support for a terrorist force, you know. Think about that. People seriously need to think about what's going on here, you know, and they need to step into their moral compass. You know, until we can do that, we're not going to get any change. You know, and the fact that all this is going on all over the world, it's unbelievable. You know, the amount of damage that we've done, millions and millions of people being killed by our governments, by our failure to step into who and what we are. You know, so we've got to step back and say enough is enough with all of this, and stand up to it, or it's not going to change.
And that's why there are studies that have come out or surveys where the mainstream media has been shown to have, for example, in America, 6% full trust by the population.
Exactly. Well, look, in what I'm just saying there, why isn't the media reporting that? If the media was to report that that's what our government is doing, there'd be, what are they? They're going to protest in the street over Donald Trump? What about when your government is doing this? You know, our government is doing this while they're telling you that they need to destroy the Barrier Reef and put a coal port up there and destroy the groundwater by putting fracking in and bring in laws where you've got to be microchipped and vaccinated and all the other stuff they want to do. I mean, how are we even allowing this? You know, we're allowing it because the media is selling it to the people. You know, so the media is the biggest problem that we face. The fact that everybody's got a television in their house, and that the 6 people who control all global television tell them they shouldn't watch the internet, they shouldn't listen to anything that's on the alternate media. That's all lies and fiction. There's 6 people. 6 people control all mainstream media. 6 major corporations, you know, and they're just feeding propaganda to the world, and they're the one who've sold the lie to the people. They're the one who've allowed all this to happen. And until that's addressed, we got some big issues trying to get information out to the people. You know, and that's why I believe there's so many alternate news networks, because then they're all selling a different story to the people. So, you know, anybody who does tune in there just finds their favourite personality and listens to them. Oh, I like this guy, I like that guy, you know. Oh, and this guy's in competition with this guy. Always they're in competition with each other. They're never working together. You know, it's all this big schmozzle. You go online, you look for alternate news, you can find 10,000 websites that'll all tell you a different story. You know, so who's got the truth? You know, the truth is in yourself. The truth is in yourself, and you're never going to find the truth anywhere else. Look to yourself.
People believe they found the truth within themselves, though.
Yeah, but they're not prepared to stand in it. They're not prepared to stand in it is the problem. They're not prepared to apply it to the world. They get all these spiritual understandings, but they're not prepared to apply it to the world around them.
And the fragmented independent media is a massive problem, and it has.
It is. It's become conspiracy entertainment. It's conspiracy entertainment, you know. And
the Google Analytics changes and the algorithm changes that they did as well made it harder for people to make money via their independent media sites as well, especially through Facebook. So that has resulted with more people using sensationalization headlines and focusing on getting as many likes as possible to engage the page and to engage the audience.
Exactly. There's pages on YouTube that are obviously COINTEL pages that are selling a lot of truth to the people, but also a lot of disinformation to people that are making, you know, $2.5 grand, $3 grand a month.
And not the whole story as well. They're too focused on the system problems, not about the spiritual awakening.
Exactly, and it's all sensationalised, you know. I don't even have my YouTube channel monetised. I haven't even monetised it. I've never done so. I don't do anything I do for money. I want people to know that, you know. It's not about that. I don't do it for views. I don't do it for likes. And my stuff is so suppressed. It doesn't come up in anybody's feeds. I've been offered YouTube partnerships so many times. They wanted me to sign up and monetize the account, and I just won't do it. And so they suppress everything that I put up there. It's amazing. But yeah, it's you look at the independent media now. It's really, if you were someone coming from the mainstream, just going to independent to find out what's really going on, you've got the same sensationalized rubbish that the mainstream is feeding people. Generally, and a lot of the independent media, there's still some good people out there, but a lot of it is so sensationalized and so distracting, so leading people down rabbit holes, nothing that's going to affect change, nothing that's going to empower people, nothing that's going to help them shift what's within them, change their moral compass and apply it to the world around them, which is where the shift has to come. But where else can it come from? You know, there is no leader that's going to lead you to safety. Whoever it is, if you're still prepared to follow their rules, you've already lost. You know, follow your own rules and make sure they're the right rules, because there's only one rule, and that is unconditional love and service to creation. That's really it. You know, and anything that steps outside of that, anything that interferes with anybody is not acceptable. It's just not acceptable. You know, you do what you want to do, just don't interfere with anybody else or anything else. You know, be at peace and be in harmony. But hey, express yourself.
Try and help uplift your environment as well.
Make the world a better place because you are here, not a worse place. You don't need to compete with people to have a bigger front door. It's absurd. You know, so it doesn't matter what we do, Phil, until anybody, you know, it doesn't matter what idea or what concept or Ubuntu or resource-based economy or Donald Trump or anything. It doesn't matter what comes along.
Or materialism.
Anarchy, anarcho-capitalism. It doesn't matter what comes along. Until people shift what's inside them, nothing is going to change. And in order to do that, they've got to look at the shadow and they've got to look at what's really controlling this world. You know, and it is this evil harvesting of the human race that is going on behind it. You're being farmed. We are all being farmed. This whole species is people farming. People farming, energy harvesting, and not just harvesting energy, but also harvesting people, children mainly. You know, and this is going on by the people that you're voting into power and believing that you can look to to find some sanity and find some solace and find some way out of here. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen until people change what's inside them and are prepared to stand up for it and die for what they believe and stand for what is right and what is good. I mean, I don't care. You could take me out any moment. I've had a great life. I've done what I can. You know, I'm prepared to die at any moment. I don't care. It's not about that. You know, I'll do what I do and I'll continue to speak out because I have no fear of these people. You know, we can't continue with what we've got. We can't continue with the direction that we're going. We have to change it. Hopefully this whole Trump presidency, this whole rubbish that's happened to the world is a big wake-up call for everybody. The world needed something like this to happen.
Well, we've lost really a lot of honour, a lot of authenticity, a lot of connection, a lot of integrity, a lot of common sense. All these things are brilliant aspects to connecting with the self that we should be focusing on, right? And that's a good segue because you mentioned before unconditional love and the service of creation.
Service to creation.
Service to creation. They're wonderful concepts to focus on when being the authentic man or woman. So let's sort of wrap this up with a bit more positive discussion or dialogue around what are some of the brilliant magical aspects of human and what can people sort of connect within themselves to make them feel more authentic and more empowered.
Well, it's knowing themselves, as I've always said, you know, knowing what you are, and it's about the experience, which is over in a blink of an eye. It really is, and it's about the journey. It's about what you do on this path, and it's about expressing the art of being you. That's really what it's all about. And you know, that one rule of unconditional love and service to creation, that doesn't mean that you're going to become Mother Teresa and go out there and serve everybody or whatever, you know, whatever she did wrong as well. I'm sure she had a dark side. But so I won't even go into that. But it doesn't mean you're going to go and deplete yourself in service of others. You're part of creation too.
So you love yourself to love others?
You need to serve yourself as much as you serve others. But don't serve yourself at the expense of others. Don't serve others at the expense of yourself. You know, realise that you're part of creation too. And always stay in your moral compass. I mean, all of this is a spiritual test. Everything we're going through right now is a huge spiritual test.
Absolutely.
And it's a huge opportunity. The fact that everything is so chaotic, the fact that everything is becoming so polarised, even US society and even Australian society, everyone's divided over this whole Trump thing issue. You got this camp and this camp. Maybe that's good in a way because it's sorting out the wheat from the chaff, and maybe it will cause people to see what a theatre show it is, what a puppet show it is, what absolute theatrics this really is. You know, it's all about this whole divide and rule concept. They don't care which side you're on, as long as you're on a side. You know, get on a side and fight with the other side. You know, don't.
Mainstream media reporting of the WikiLeaks and Clinton scandals and the Foundation, all the rest of it. You'd have to be your head must be deep in the sand not to realise the farcity of that entire spectacle. Right?
Exactly. It's all set up, and you look even when you look at Assange and WikiLeaks. I mean, I got mentioned WikiLeaks. Someone mentioned WikiLeaks to me in an interview the other day, and I nearly said something, but I didn't. I just bit my tongue. But
he doesn't mention Israel.
He doesn't mention a lot of stuff. He doesn't tell us anything we didn't already know.
Trump
he just basically confirms it. He doesn't mention a lot of stuff.
Do you think that's
and
a
really when you look at how do you undermine a government? If you're controlling a government, and let's say I'm an external force, and you're the government. You're the government of the United States, and you're controlling the people of the United States, and we're getting a good kickback from that. Suddenly the people of the United States aren't doing what we want, and we're not getting a good kickback. What do we do? How do we
under the bus?
What do we do? What do we address you? How do we address you? We start stirring up tension in the United States so that they overthrow you. And then we put a new puppet in place who they think they voted for. So you've got to look at how this is done. Okay, if you really want to get rid of the government of the United States, you want to replace it with a puppet that you want, you have to get the people of the United States so agitated that they will get rid of their government for you. That's how you do it. That's how you go in and undermine a government and undermine a country. You know, if you really want to undermine a country, educate their children. That's how you do it. Okay? So you've got to look at the deeper play that's going on here. and how people are being played, because they are. And ultimately this is all a spiritual test. But with this play going on at the moment, because it's such a schmozzle, it's such a mess, and it is becoming so obviously at play, hopefully it will provide an opportunity for a grand awakening. Hopefully it will provide an opportunity for people to wake up to themselves and go, hang on a minute, this is all theatre. This whole thing is being staged.
So there's much more important things about life, eh?
There are, but hopefully this will provide some sort of an opportunity for people to wake up to themselves. I mean, that's really the best hope we've got. And if people don't wake up for themselves, then we've got no hope. But I think maybe they will. Maybe this will provide them that pathway, and maybe we'll see something good come of it all.
It certainly will for some people. But at the end of the day, you talked about it being a spiritual game, and my self-reflection over the years has just taught me that my purpose is just to grow, like to evolve, to expand, to connect with myself in the best possible way as possible, and that will never end. It's a waking up journey, not I'm waking up, I'm not getting to some plateau and that's it, right? I'm complete.
No, it's about the journey.
It is about the journey, and so it's important for those who believe they're awake to think about in what other ways might they need to grow, including changing what they might think is a solid belief structure or a solid.
Be careful what you believe.
Absolutely.
Be careful what you believe. Don't even believe you're awake.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even finished this path yet. I'm not finished my journey yet. Mm-hmm. I won't really know what it's all about probably till I leave this realm. Like enlightenment is a destructive process. It really is.
And it's also a constructive
It's a breaking
process.
down of everything you think you believe to be real. And you've got to examine your belief systems all along the way. I do.
Mm-hmm.
There's been so many people have wanted me to go down different rabbit holes and get locked into different beliefs and take this on as reality. I'll consider everything as a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
I'm too much of a skeptic not to consider the possibility of anything. Okay? So, but I won't believe anything. I'll believe it all when I'm finished here, and I can look back at it and go, aha, that's what it was all about.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll just do my bit along the way and stay in my moral compass and offer the perspective that I've got in the hope that it helps others, and in the hope that it maybe leave some breadcrumbs for myself when I come back. Hopefully I've shifted things into something a little bit more positive, and I don't want anything from it because I don't have any stake in the outcome of this. I'm only here for the blink of an eye.
Just the expansion of your own energy.
Yeah, I don't have any stake in the outcome of anything I do. This is a temporary existence. How can I possibly have a stake in the outcome? That's the problem people have, is they've got a stake in the outcome of all the stuff they do. They're scared of doing this stuff because they think something might happen. What, are you scared of death? That's what you came here to do. That's the only part of life that's inevitable. I'm not scared of that bit. That's coming. I can guarantee it. It's coming for you too. It's coming for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So don't worry about that. But yeah, I think it's an interesting experience, and I think it's about what you do with it, and it's about the journey. And don't ever believe that you've found the answer. You've found enlightenment.
Well,
oh my God, now I'm there.
Yeah. That's quite common within the so-called awakened
As soon as you do that, wow, I've got it, I'm enlightenment. Oh, wow, I'm so cool. The ego comes straight back in, You're just so far.
Ego.
You're so far from reality,
The ego is always going to be there. We're a human snapshot of infinite consciousness.
Yeah, it's about the path. It's about the journey. So, and hey, this has provided a real little sidestep in the path here now. A little different way we could go if we take the opportunity, if we seize it. It isn't about what Trump does, it's about what the people do from this point.
And I think if we do consider or stay open to that growth, whatever that may be for each individual, then it makes the concept literally implies that we're equal, because we're all imperfectly perfect on our own part of the journey. We're on our own stage of awakening, so to speak, and that means that no one is better or worse than anyone else. We're all just at a different stage of our journey, and therefore we can finally get along.
Exactly. Everyone's in a different stone on the path.
Mm-hmm.
It's all good. That's the way it works.
As long as we're sort of moving in the same general direction, that's a pretty good thing, right?
No, I think this is a good time. I think this is a real opportunity, and I hope people seize the opportunity with both hands.
Well,
I really do.
I talk to people in the street, strangers, people I know, family, friends, whatever, And I'll just drop these sort of truth bombs as matter of fact now. It's not even a debate. There are the banking system's a scam, education and indoctrination, pharmaceutical monopolies create customers, not cures. The entire economic growth model is an absolute unsustainable joke. The detrimental impacts on our natural systems, the entire politico-financial complex and the corporatocracy that we have today, which controls macro policy decisions. This is all matter of fact. It's clear as day. The evidence is there. I'm not going to even bother trying to prove it to anybody. I just say it. That's my statement. I'm not even going to bother having an argument with you about it. And people are responding amazingly.
Yeah.
I'm surprised at how many people get it.
That's the thing. People think, oh, yeah, we got to do something. The system's broken. No, it's not. That's the point. The system's doing exactly what it's designed to do. It's not broken at all. What's happening is you're just waking up to the fact that you've been scammed. You know, and it's a beautiful thing.
Well, look, I've got a lot of hope and faith. I hope it's not misguided and wishful thinking, but hey, we play a co-creative part in this process, and if we can all, who sort of get this, have a bit more of a hopeful, positive, optimistic approach to it, maybe we'll make this process more efficient and effective as well.
For sure.
Absolutely. Well, an absolute pleasure, Max. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, it's pretty good. I'm pretty happy. It was a good discussion. Interesting stuff. I'll be interested to see the video. Thanks for putting up with the rants, folks.
Thanks, guys. Peace.
In Lakesh.